There was a moment in history so terrifying, so disturbing, that the wisest man who ever lived sat alone inside a palace covered in gold and realized he had destroyed his own soul. Imagine having everything the world says should make a man happy. Unlimited wealth, power powerful enough to command nations, wisdom so great that kings crossed deserts just to hear you speak. Imagine hearing the voice of God with your own ears, not once, but twice. And then imagine losing all of it. Not because an enemy invaded your kingdom, not because an army burned your city, but because something far more dangerous entered silently into your heart. Something so subtle that Solomon himself never noticed the exact moment it began destroying him. Because the truth is, the most dangerous sins are not the ones that shock people immediately. The most dangerous sins are the ones that grow quietly while everyone still thinks you are blessed. And tonight, you are about to witness the terrifying fall of the man who had everything and still died empty. When Solomon first became king, he wasn't the powerful legend history remembers. He was young, inexperienced, terrified. The throne of Israel did not feel like a reward to him. It felt like a burden crushing his chest. His father was King David, the warrior chosen by God, the man who defeated giants and built the greatest kingdom Israel had ever known. Solomon knew everyone expected him to become another David, but deep inside, he felt weak, small, and unworthy. And maybe that was the reason God chose him. Because one night, while the kingdom slept, Solomon went to Gibeon and offered sacrifices before the Lord. The fire rose into the dark sky, while the young king stood trembling beneath the stars, painfully aware that he was completely incapable of carrying the future of an entire nation on his shoulders. And that night, something impossible happened. God appeared to Solomon in a dream and said words no human being should ever forget. Ask for whatever you want me to give you. Imagine that moment. The creator of the universe offering one man absolutely anything. Wealth beyond imagination. Unlimited power. Victory over every enemy. A long life. Glory. Fame. Solomon could have asked for everything men still worship today. But instead, he asked for wisdom. A heart able to discern between right and wrong. And God was pleased. What happened next transformed Solomon into the most famous king on earth. God gave him wisdom unlike anyone before him, but he also gave him unimaginable wealth and honor. Jerusalem exploded into greatness. Gold became so common, it was treated like stone. Nations feared Israel. Kings respected Solomon. Queens traveled for months just to stand in his presence and hear him speak. Merchants flooded the kingdom carrying spices, jewels, exotic animals, treasures from distant lands. Everywhere Solomon looked, he saw prosperity. But his greatest achievement wasn't his throne or his riches. It was the temple, the sacred house built for the presence of God himself. Massive stones carved in silence, cedar wood from Lebanon, walls covered in pure gold, the greatest structure Israel had ever seen. And when the temple was finally complete, Solomon stood before the entire nation and lifted his hands toward heaven. Then the glory of God descended, not gently, not quietly. The presence of God filled the temple with such overwhelming power that the priests could not even remain standing. Heaven touched earth in that moment. Solomon had everything a man could possibly desire. He had wisdom, purpose, glory, power, the favor of God. But that was the exact moment danger began creeping into his life. Because success can become deadly when it convinces a man he no longer needs obedience. At first, the changes in Solomon were almost invisible. That is how destruction usually begins, quietly, slowly. Solomon started marrying foreign women from surrounding nations. At first, it seemed harmless. Smart politics, strategic alliances, peace agreements designed to strengthen Israel and prevent war. And honestly, it worked. The kingdom grew stronger, richer, safer. Solomon probably believed he was too wise to be affected by compromise. That was his greatest mistake. Because compromise never announces itself as evil. It arrives dressed as logic, as opportunity, as harmless pleasure, as something manageable. Little by little, foreign beliefs entered Jerusalem. Small idols appeared inside the palace. Strange customs became normal. Solomon convinced himself he was still loyal to God, while slowly making room for things God had already warned him against. And this is the terrifying part of the story. Solomon never woke up one morning planning to betray God. He drifted there slowly, one compromise at a time. The Bible says Solomon had hundreds of wives and concubines, and eventually those relationships began pulling his heart away from the God who had blessed him. The same man who once built a temple for God started building altars for false gods. The same king who once prayed with humility before heaven began allowing demonic worship to rise on the hills surrounding Jerusalem. Altars to Moloch, altars to Chemosh, altars built with the very hands that once lifted prayers to the living God. And maybe the most horrifying part of all is that Solomon still looked blessed while his soul was collapsing. The kingdom still flourished. The gold still flowed. The people still admired him. Outwardly, everything looked successful. But internally, something terrible had already happened. Solomon's heart had become divided. And a divided heart is one of the most dangerous things a human being can possess, because eventually, you stop hearing the voice that once guided you. The noise of pleasure becomes louder than conviction. The noise of pride becomes louder than truth. And slowly, the presence of God begins to feel distant. That is exactly what happens to people today. Nobody destroys their life overnight. Nobody suddenly wakes up completely lost. It happens slowly. A compromise here, a temptation there, a small sin tolerated because it feels harmless. People convince themselves they are still in control while their soul quietly drifts into darkness. And the terrifying thing is that many people still look successful while they are spiritually collapsing inside. That was Solomon. The richest king on earth became one of the emptiest men alive. Near the end of his life, after experiencing every pleasure imaginable, Solomon sat surrounded by luxury and realized none of it could fill the void growing inside him. The man who possessed everything discovered that nothing in this world could satisfy a soul separated from God. And that is why he wrote the heartbreaking words found in Ecclesiastes. Everything is meaningless. Think about that for a moment. Those words came from a man who had everything modern society tells people to chase: wealth, fame, pleasure, power, women, knowledge, success. And yet his final conclusion was horrifying. It was all empty. Maybe that is why Solomon's story feels so dangerous today. Because millions of people are doing exactly what he did. Building careers while neglecting their soul. Chasing success while slowly drifting away from God. Filling their lives with noise, pleasure, ambition, entertainment, and distractions while becoming emptier inside every year. Solomon learned too late that wisdom without obedience becomes destruction. That success without God becomes misery disguised as achievement. And maybe tonight, there are people watching this who secretly feel exactly like Solomon did near the end of his life. Surrounded by things, but empty inside. Smiling publicly, while privately exhausted. Looking successful, while spiritually collapsing. Because the hidden sin that destroyed Solomon still destroys people today. Pride. compromise. The belief that we can slowly drift away from God and somehow remain untouched by the consequences. But Solomon's story does not end with triumph. It ends with warning. A warning written by a broken king who realized too late that he had spent years chasing things that could never save him. And as darkness quietly spread across Israel after Solomon's fall, another terrifying story was already beginning to unfold in the shadows. A story about a man whose weakness would unleash betrayal, violence, and unimaginable destruction. And what happened next was far worse than anyone expected.